Hello, everyone. Let's see, I think I have everyone muted on entry. Can you unmute yourself or do I have to unmute you?
No, hello, Dr. Garfield. We can unmute her.
That answers my question. Excellent. And let's see, Master Beep. Yeah, if y'all use your name, that'd be great, because one of the things that's tough is learning everybody's name every semester, so that helps a lot. Earlier Zoom session, we did not have, and so I'm glad that they fixed it. Zoom was down this morning, so I missed 2 lectures this morning. Okay, I'm going to record this though so that we can save, so that I can post this to people. And hopefully this will record correctly and record on my computer. Let's see here. Stop recording, pause, stop. Does this looks like it's recording? Yes, it's got the little red light on. Okay, so be aware you're being recorded. If you object to that, then you can drop out of the lecture. Now, let's try the next hurdle, sharing my screen. Does that share? Do you see stuff?
Yeah,
We can
we
see.
can see the screen.
All right. All right. So today is the normal first day of lecture, kind of introduction to the course. And I don't think this will take 50 minutes. What I want to do is make sure I have time for questions. The material's already online. You've already seen it. Hopefully you've already seen it, and you already have recordings of it posted. So no new information. That's not the goal of these lectures. The real opportunity here is to have some real-time interaction where you get a chance to say, wait a minute, I don't get it, stop, back up, and help me out. Yeah, and just to be clear, there's been some confusion, basically me not communicating well enough. So all of this course is online. All of the information, assignments, etc., will be delivered via Canvas. The lectures, I believe, are helpful for giving you an opportunity to resolve any confusions that you have. And so some of you, if you have face-to-face obligations right now, that's what takes precedence. If you're unable to make these, then your face-to-face obligations take precedence. And this is kind of a test run this week. We'll see how this goes. I suspect, I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect that we don't need 3 lectures a week all the time. So we might back off to maybe 1, maybe 2. We'll see how it goes. This is test run, and you guys are going to help me because you're going to give me feedback on what you need. All right. What's this course about? Let's see. Before we get started, no labs this week. Zoom lectures not required, strongly encouraged. And a bunch of you took the doodle poll. Thank you for participating in that. And then I picked times that at the time that the polls, at the time I made the decision, the 2 time slots I picked, everybody could attend. I know a couple people that aren't able to. And like I said, we'll just keep reassessing this as we go on. The textbook is the Lang book. I recommend it. It's actually a pretty good both learn from book and reference book. It's usually difficult to have a book do both of those jobs. There's no homework directly from the text, but it's still a good resource to have. There are a lot of resources that you can take advantage of when you're actually doing programming. I'm old. I don't mind having a paper book by my side that I can page through. A lot of students seem to like having web pages up. That's fine too. You'll need to download some software to your computer. Lab 1 that's what it's all about. But the specific thing you want the Eclipse in Java, and you want the latest versions of that. And so Dean Laga will help walk you through that. If you want to do that earlier on than do it this week, then by all means have at it. And if you have issues, your best bet is probably to get in touch with Dean, but you can also get in touch with me also. And I say probably Dean because he has seen probably every problem under the sun in terms of trying to install and run both of those products. They're both free, they're both well supported, and they tend not to have any issues. If you have a Mac, everything seems to work out fine. We haven't had any issues in this course with the cross-pollinating Mac stuff with Windows stuff. If you have questions, by the way, just jump in at any time. The outcome of this lecture or this module is to basically introduce you to the course. I won't read through those. You have plenty of time to do that. 3 major themes: object-oriented programming. So in your first course, you either took EGR115 or you took CS225, or you took a course in high school, like an AP course, or brought in a transfer credit from another college. Those of you that took EGR115 or CS225, you saw a particular programming paradigm called the imperative or procedural paradigm. And this course introduces you to the object-oriented paradigm. You think about software differently in different paradigms. Those of you that go on to take CS332 will see a third one, the functional paradigm, and a couple of others. I stress this because this course is often referred to as the Java course. And as much as I really piss and moan about people saying that, I still hear students say, oh yeah, I learned that in the Java course, or I took that in the Java course. And, well, we don't have a Java class. We have Computer Science 2. And the Java Computer Science 2 is to teach you about object-oriented programming. Along the way, we'll also be developing, introducing you to some software development processes. These are the processes that are used in industry today. And I believe even if you're getting a CS minor, or if you're in the CS or SE disciplines, you will take SE300. And in SE300, you'll take what you learned here, put them into a team process, and build upon that. Some of you folks are in CE and EE, and I don't think you have to take SE300 for those majors. Also, continuing about software design. You know, we always talk about, okay, we're going to write software, we're going to write a program, and then you have to talk about the hard question. Oh, how do I do that? Someone gives me a problem. Hey, I need software that does this, or I need software that does that. And then the hard part is, oh, okay, how do I turn that need into a solution? How do I turn that solution into working code? And that stays hard the rest of your life, right? We give you some of the basic ideas and the basic tools, but the way you get good at it is just like you do with other things. You do it every day. You know, it takes about 10,000 hours of working on something to become an expert. Well, how do you get to be a good writer? Write every day. How do you get to be a good programmer? Program every day. And so it's all about this kind of, I can't give you the magic formula. It's not teaching like that, but it's teaching like, okay, here's the stuff we know. Here's the stuff that works. Here's some standard solutions that you can take into every situation. I think you guys know what this looks like because you're here, right? So everything's going to be on Canvas. Over the next day or two, I'll be starting to massage the assignment sections. I have the discussions open. In a lot of my classes, I don't use Canvas hardly at all, but obviously here it's all Canvas. I have the discussions open. I'll open some up periodically. One of them that we already did was just, you know, hey, here's an opportunity to introduce yourself and learn who else is in the class. One of the things about being online, pretty hard to figure out who else is in the class, what they're like, what are they doing, who is someone in the class that you normally, you know, you sit down and you sit next to somebody. Over time, you end up talking to them and getting help from them, or vice versa. So how do we do that in a virtual place? The discussions, I hope, will help with that. So please participate in those. I'll have some that are just, here's some weird thing. Why is this way? Well, like, why do we start counting at 0? But others will be just, you know, I think I'm going to have one discussion thread just called help, you know, and whenever you're having an issue with something, post it there and let your peers give you some answers, and myself, Dean, and any other people that we hire to be lab TAs and graders will also be monitoring those kinds of threads. So definitely for some of the homeworks for the projects, we'll have dedicated threads to those things. So far, so good? All right. So what do you have to do? What's your job here, right? What have you signed up for? Well, it's a 4-credit course, and it's an honest 4 credits. It's a course that experience shows me will take up a fair amount of your time, an honest amount of your time. You know, they always figure 3 hours a week per credit, right? So you take a 3-credit course, you're going to work 9 hours a week. This is a 4-credit course, so figure about 12 hours a week. And I think that's an honest assessment. I know when I was an undergrad, everyone said, okay, 3 credits is 9 hours, and I rarely did my 9 hours, right? I usually could come in under that. But this course, I think 12 hours is about right. Because some of this stuff will be up ahead of time, by all means, if you haven't done your 12 hours, start looking ahead. Even if you're not working, familiarize yourself with the products, the assignments that are coming up, that kind of thing. There's 8 required homework assignments. 6 of them are about coding, 2 are about software development. There's 11 labs. There's an additional homework assignment that's extra credit. There's 4 discussions, which is part of the project work, and 7 project deliverables. So that's a fair amount of deliverables. That's a fair amount of turning things in. Instead of having like 2 or 3 big tests where you earn, you know, your grade either rises or falls based on the result of a couple of big assignments, we have lots of little ones. So what does that mean? It means keep up, don't fall behind, get the work done. My experience with this course is students who are honestly attempting the work and just turn stuff in end up doing very well in the course. So it's not like a conceptually difficult course, right? If you take thermo, some of you guys are probably going to take thermo. Well, I remember that as a conceptually difficult course. Jet and rocket propulsion to me was a conceptually difficult course. This is not that way. There's more about just put in the work, put in the hours. Will it take up all your time? Yes and no. The project is the thing that will probably take up the bulk of your time, especially towards the end of the semester, and we've designed the course that way. What that means is, though, there's 7 project deliverables, so you're doing bits and pieces of your project as the semester goes on. I cannot say this enough. If you do the early parts of the project well, you will be a very happy person when you're doing the later parts, which is the actual coding. If you slough off the early parts, it's due tonight, I better start, and you don't put the work in there, then you will have a miserable time at the end of the semester. The early parts of the project are about planning and designing, and then the latter parts are about actually writing the code to match your design. If you do a good job designing, writing the code is almost trivial. If you do a poor job at designing, then you get stuck trying to design and code at the same time. And I have seen many students be very frustrated with that. So I've seen it work both ways. Students that put in the work early on, they seem to be pretty happy campers at the end of the semester. And students that don't will have trouble. At the end of the semester, when you're having trouble and you come to ask me a question or ask any of the TAs a question, that's my dog. One of the first things we will ask you is, well, show me your design. And if you don't have that design to show me, I will say, go away until you have your design and then come back and we can talk. So I can't stress it enough. The design is actually critical. Okay, syllabus overview. I'm not going to read through those. You can look at the course outcomes, but here's a good thing to do. And maybe if I'm doing this correctly, and I don't know if I will be able to, periodically, maybe I should repost this with some of these line items highlighted. Like, hey, this is what you should know by now. When you leave the course, take a look at this list again and say, oh yeah, I got it, or I don't got that part, right? To let you know how well you're doing. Okay. Anything so far before we move into grading? Yep. See someone do chat. Okay. Okay, there's 1,000 points in the course. Normally what I've done in previous semesters is I said, okay, here's 1,000 points, I lump them all together. And I wasn't happy with how that turned out. I had some students that I think were getting their grades inflated. In my opinion, they really didn't know what was going on in the course really, really well. So I'm trying an experiment this time, and you guys can tell me at the end of the semester how this experiment went. Instead of just saying there's 1,000 points, I've broken it out into the lab homework quizzes, which I'll refer to as LHQ. That's 600 points. The project is 400 points. You get a separate grade for each one. You don't get the average, you get the lower of the two. And so that means you have to do well in both halves of the course. Now, that sounds awful. It sounds like I'm giving you twice the chance to get a bad grade. But in order to accommodate that, I've upped the extra credit amount. So basically, I used to give up to 5% extra credit, give extra credit at 10%. So if you're low in one, but you've done extra credit, we can apply the extra credit to the low one to bring it up to the other one. And I've given some examples there. Again, my experience, students who come in, take the course seriously, do the work, then they end up achieving A or B grades. And I can't stress that enough, do the work. When you guys show up in the classroom every day and we're face to face, I get a chance to kind of badger you, like, hey, what have you done? What's going on here? It's a little harder virtually. It's also when you're going to class every day, that enforces structure on your life. And most people, when they have structure enforced on their life, they're able to just get into a pattern that's more helpful for them. They're more used to doing, okay, this is my time that I have to work on this course. This is my time I have to work on that course. Not nearly as much structure online. So it's kind of up to us to maintain the structure. The rest of this, I think, is from the schedule. Let me pull up the schedule on the original form here. Yeah. So this is revision 0, meaning we may revise this as we go through the semester. Almost always we do. Even though we're online, who knows, we might get a hurricane rolling through or something like that. The last couple of falls when we were on campus, we've had hurricanes rolling through. That changed the schedule. I've broken this up into modules. So that's an image, so it does the whole thing. So I've given you the week, the dates, the days, the modules, what's due, whether you have lab or not, no lab, that kind of thing. Right? So hopefully this is your one-stop shop to figure out what your obligations are during the week. Canvas also does a good job maintaining calendars for you and reminders. So when I actually put up assignments that you have to do, Canvas lets you know, right? But look at the organization. The organization, other than the first week is Monday is course introduction, Wednesday and Friday are the course lecture components. And I go through modules, right? I just number them 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up. And then the last one I just numbered 99. Project is module 99, just to keep it separate from the rest of the modules. Plus, to be honest, when I started, I wasn't sure how many modules I would have. I thought 99 was a safe number because I doubted I would have 98 other modules. So we'll start out with object-oriented paradigm, and then modules 2, 3, 4, and 5 are what I call Java, Java, Java. So even though this is not the Java course, you can't really talk about object-oriented paradigms, object-oriented methods, until you are able to, okay, here's the idea, let's practice it. So in order to do that, the first thing is let's hit Java hard. Let's go through and do a lot of Java stuff. And along the way, I'll be introducing, okay, these are what objects are, this is their job, that kind of thing. A couple of semesters ago, I introduced Module 1 at the front of the class to start talking about, okay, at a high level, what the heck are these things? Everyone talks about the object-oriented paradigm, but I don't know what that is. So I introduced this short introductory topic. Those are already up and available for you in Module 1. Module 2 should be up available shortly. Module 2 will be much less about PowerPoints and much more about code. So the author has a lot of code, example code, and I've created a fair amount of example code also over the years. And what I'm trying to do is replace all of the author code with my code, because the author does some things that are contrary to good coding practices that I stress in the course. And since code development is part of the course, I thought it was important to fix that. Okay. Are the labs due on Friday? I'm talking with Dean about that, and my recommendation was this. You know, during a normal semester, you would have labs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes Fridays, depending on how many people we had. And we felt it kind of disadvantaged the Tuesday, Wednesday people, because the Thursday, Friday people had more time. So my recommendation to Dean is, yes, everything in the lab should be due on Friday, like at midnight. And so that gives everybody an equal opportunity. And so that's what I believe is going to happen. I trust Dean fully with how he runs the lab. He's been doing it for years. He is the one part of this course that I think has never received a negative comment back from a student. So whatever he goes with is I'm good with. But that's my belief, is that they will be due on Friday. Okay, so that's how this semester runs. Let me see, we've got more to this thing, if I can, there it is, okay. As we go through this semester, yeah, we'll be doing some Java stuff up through 9, but really we're pulling away from Java there and talking more about you know, how do you build code, that kind of thing. The way these are set up, every Monday and Wednesday, we do course type stuff. Every Friday I've reserved for project discussion and project Q&A and basically giving you hints and clues about how to do the project. The reason I'm doing that is in a face-to-face session, which there's some inefficiencies in the face-to-face model, right? The good news is I really think there's a great interaction and sense of presence that you get with the face-to-face that helps with teaching and hopefully helps with learning. But going online gives us a little bit of efficiency in that you guys can look at material ahead of time, and I'm going to assume you're a responsible person and blah, 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 which means I can reserve more time for project discussion. And quite frankly, that's a part of the course that I think students have struggled with previously. So I'm at least giving you the opportunity for this stuff. So in order to give you cues on how to do your writing, cues on how to do the design and how to present the design, we'll have more time for that on Fridays. And those lectures are just like these lectures. Attendance is not required. I'll record it, and I'll, somebody had a comment, I think, and I need to go find it. There we go. Technology, don't you love it? Okay. Zooming. Okay. Thank you for answering each other's questions. That's exactly the kind of student help that we get in the classroom, right? That I'm hoping to get here. Okay. Let's see. Towards the end of the semester, and by the way, you notice the university completely rescheduled things. They got rid of all the holidays early on so that they could end the semester basically early in terms of being on campus. As you know, normally what happens is you go home for Thanksgiving and then you come back for another week of classes in another half a week or so, of finals. And what happens in a normal semester is everybody gets the flu because everyone goes home, picks up the flu, and comes and brings it back to campus. And I think the university administration did a fairly clever thing of once you go home to pick up a new disease, or maybe you get unfortunately exposed to COVID or something like that, you don't come and bring it back, right? So they're reducing the risk that way. But to do that, they had to eliminate the holidays earlier on in the semester. So what happens here? Periodically, we have 1 week on week 12 with no lab, and then at the end of the semester, no lab for the last 2 weeks. And again, the idea is, I know it's during the Thanksgiving holiday, but the idea is the labs and even the homeworks will burn down so that you have the last few weeks fully devoted to your project. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean you're going to start your project then. If you're one of those people that did your early work on the project early enough, you're going to have basically nothing to do those 2 weeks, which would be great. But usually that's, the crunch time. The idea was to make the required coursework go down while your need for time to work on your lab or your project goes up. That's the intent. Questions so far? If anyone, how you can, let's see, how do we do this here? I still haven't figured out how to make that come down. There it is. This thing with, isn't there a way to do a reaction like the little hand or the clap or something like that? Is there one of those? Can someone pick their little hand button? I want to see how it looks on my end. I don't see anything. 2 participants. Oh, I see, Joseph. Yeah, good. Okay. So if you have a question, that's a good way to interrupt me, right? You can just do that and I can, yeah. And Purinder says that's a good idea. Okay. So if you have questions, that's a good way to interrupt me. Apparently it brings your name up to the top of the screen here and I can take a look at it. Okay. I think the other thing we have is the syllabus, and the syllabus is fairly short and sweet. It tells you stuff that I've already told you. Normally in this table that I'm showing here, it has all of the room times and all that good stuff, and we just don't have that anymore, and all of the office hours, and we don't have that anymore. So my office is irrelevant. I won't be on campus, maybe but 1 or 2 times this semester. And so my office phone is also no good. Get a hold of me via Canvas. Canvas is the absolute best way. If you get a hold of me via email, I get too much confusion in my messaging streams, right? So by all means, get a hold of me via Canvas. And the same thing with Dean. Dean is also going to set up some tutorial sessions and times. What we did last spring, which was completely spontaneous but worked out great, is Dean has set up Discord servers, and most of you guys are familiar with Discord, or a bunch of you are, and so people were playing games, hanging out in Discord, hanging out in the CS225 Discord server at the same time, and whenever people had questions, they would just pop it into the room and other people could answer it, or it would sit there until somebody noticed it and they could answer it. And that could be a student, it could be me, it could be one of the TAs. Yeah, excellent. We'll probably ask you to migrate though to a different one. Yeah. So Jared is saying you guys started a Discord server already. Yeah. So the link, if I recall, because I'm not a Discord person, but the link will come from Dean, and I believe you have to respond within 24 hours or something. So he'll periodically send them out. Yeah. If you guys want to keep that one, by all means do. And please invite me to it also if you want me to, pop in there from time to time. All right. Okay. That's that list of course objectives. Labs, here's what's amazing. Here's what's helpful, the stuff that I highlighted, right? So your lab TAs are great. They've been at it a long time. Dean has really worked hard to make this lab good over his several years of teaching it. And I always get good feedback from the students about how helpful he and the other TAs are. Now, the other TAs, I'm not 100% sure who they're going to be yet. We're going to hire them this week, and then they'll participate next week. We will also have a dedicated course grader separate from Dean, so I'll let you know who that is when we hire them. And whenever you do your homeworks, that will be graded by that person. If you have questions about them, talk to them first. And then if you can't get a resolution, then talk to myself. And those are the paths of communication. Basic course stuff, talk to me. Basic lab stuff, talk to Dean. Basic homework, talk to the homework grader whose name will be provided once we make sure who it is. As I said, your grade points get broken down into 600 and 400 points. There's 129 points of extra credit. Oh, that's more than 10%. Garfield, you said you would allow 10%. That's right. I'm giving you more opportunities than you can use. So by giving you more opportunities, you don't have to get a high score on all of them. You can still get up to 10% of your grade. And then there's an example of that. Okay, academic integrity, not acceptable or allowable to develop significant portions of programs as a group effort or to copy software from online sources or submit assignments that have not been created independently by the student. Software classes historically and universally have an issue with this. People will cut and paste code from online, that kind of thing. I hate it. So I don't have any tolerance for it. I've ended up for the project banning most games: Blackjack, Battleship, Othello. What's the Russian one that you drop the quads out of the sky and line them up? All those games are no longer allowable for projects. And you can thank previous students who were panicking and cut and pasted from code online. It's not a good idea. And I think most students, they don't start out thinking that's what they're going to do, but you panic at the end of the semester sometimes. So if you're panicking, just talk to me. Don't do anything that's really going to hurt you. Do something where we can work something out. Because there's normally a lot of people in this class, we've got, I think, 51 between the two sections, which is a fair amount. No late homework will be graded, so we have a dedicated grader, but let's not drive that person nuts. In some of my other courses, I can allow late homework, but this one, it just never works out that way. Plus, it's a strong incentive for you to keep up. If you start getting behind in the coding techniques and the software development processes that we're trying to bring to your attention, then it affects every aspect of the course. It will really harm you. So this is a strong encouragement just to keep up. Having said that, of course, if you get sick, if you have a relative who, a family emergency, something like that, then it's not ethical for me to punish you for that. And so the trick there is always work it out ahead of time, right? Work it out ahead of time. Some of you are athletes. I don't know what's going on in the athletic world now, but if you're traveling, you're going to know your schedule pretty soon. You may already know it now. If you're going to go to a conference, because you're working on a research team, some of you may know that already now. If you're going to go to, some kind of a AIAA or Women in Engineering or something like that conference, let me know as soon as possible and let's see what we can work out. Quite frankly, most people who know that far in advance are actually turning in their homework early. So that's a model that would be wise to try to follow. It's not always possible. All right. We're getting close to the end here. I didn't think this would take 50 minutes, but okay. 5 lectures, 3 times a week. Now, we're going to revisit that, right? This is a test week, and I think next week will be a test week. And what we'll find out is maybe I only need to do 1 course lecture a week and one for the project. I'm really hesitant to take that project one out because it's not just developing code, it's developing the other products that go along with software, like test and requirements documents and test plans and design documents, things like that, and teaching, giving you advice on how best to write those things and frame those things. That's worth all of our time. Trust me, the better you learn to write, the better you do everywhere. Again, attendance is not required, but there's a dire warning. Students who don't attend usually fail the course. Now that's true in a face-to-face lecture situation, but if you're not attending these lectures and then you're watching the recordings, you've attended the lecture, right? You've done your job. I think I already covered all this stuff. No labs for the first week. Everything's going to be on the CS225 site. We don't need to muck things up by having CS225 and CS225L. That turns my 2-section course into a 6-section course, which is a little hard to run logistically. So we historically have done everything on 225. I've also taken the 2 sections on Canvas and merged them into one. So just to make sure that if I give some information or some instructions to one section, the other section gets it automatically. Labs are run by Dean Lage, as I said. The labs focus on specific skills. That's their job. So we're going to say, okay, here's how you just basically run some simple Java stuff. Well, lab 1, you practice running simple Java stuff. Week 2, we're going to go into if, then, else's, and loops. Okay, then you start to practice. I think actually the second week is testing in the lab. Black box testing and white box testing. So what you're learning in the lab are individual specific skills. And then what the project is supposed to do is you tie it all together. You get to use all those skills. Zoe Mullins raised hand.
Yes, so on my Zoom, it says, or not on my Zoom, on my Canvas, it says that I'm still on the wait list for the lab. So,
Okay. Shoot an email to Professor Behe,
okay,
behif@era.edu, and just let him know what's going on. And since we're doing everything virtually, there's no class size limits anymore.
okay,
And quite frankly, if there's an open section, even if it conflicts with one of your other times, join that section rather than bothering poor Professor Behe.
okay, yeah,
So
I
if there's
don't,
an open section, do that first. And if there's not, then go ahead and email Professor Behe. And the reason I say that is because with everything virtual, we don't care what section you signed up for.
okay.
Right?
I don't think any of the lab, there was just one lab that worked with my schedule, and that's the one that I had signed up for, and it says I'm just first on the waiting list. So
Got it. So look at the other ones and see if there's seats left in those.
Okay.
Because we don't care about we don't care about schedule anymore, right? You can go to the sections no matter what section you signed up for legally.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Right. All right. Homework assignments, everything is done through Canvas, right? So as I said, late homework are not accepted. There's 8 and 1 extra credit. And 6 of them, this is not in sequence, by the way, 6 of them are coding type assignments. 2 of them are helping you give practice on software development techniques before you do them for the project where you get the larger grade on them. So there's 6 that are coding. 1 is about setting up requirements and test. 1 is about doing a UML diagram. What's a UML diagram? We'll talk about that later. It's a way of showing your code design in a graphical way. And so we're going to cover all that stuff in the course ahead of time, of course. And what we've done with the programming, there's 6 of the coding assignments, and then there's a 9th one that is also, no, the 9th one is not coding, so, but it's extra credit. So of those 6 homework assignments, coding assignments, the first one is a simple look, just run the most basic, almost a hello world basic Java program, right? Show us how to write, compile, and run. And then the second one is slightly more complex. It's, okay, here now you're going to do it's still pretty straightforward. Now you're going to do a slightly more complex program where you have an if, then, else, and I don't think loops, but if, then, else, and functions. Then we move into a series of programming assignments that build on each other. So what the goal here was, you actually get to build a mini project. We call it, I call it the Hound and Hare sequence, where you're building a simulation of a balloon race called Hound and Hare, hot air balloons. And I mean, a stupid, simple simulation. The idea is you're building this piece by piece, and it gets a little more complex as you go through, and it's effectively building a project. If you did Hound and Hare for project, that would be fine, other than you can't do it now because we already gave it to you for homework. See, that thing goes away when you guys talk and I can't, there it is. I'm not smart enough to get it back, okay. Before we use Java FX, can we use swing or J option pane for early projects? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Java FX, period. No lab this week. What about next week? Look on the schedule. Yes, there is a lab next week. Submit just the jar files for homework. No, no jar files. We're going to ask you to zip things up, but no jar files. You're going to submit the class. You need to submit the source code, and source code and any documentation. You don't even need the class files, and we don't want jar files, because what we want to do is make sure that if you told me that this thing compiles and runs, that I actually can compile it and run it. No offense, but I'm not going to trust you, right? So I need to see the source code so I can compile it and run it, or I should say the grader is going to do that. And also, if there's an issue, we need to go back to the source code. We want to make sure that we get good, clean access to the source code. The best way to do that is just zipped up files. The reason is different systems that people use might do jar files a little bit differently. Okay. Okay. The Hound and Hare assignment, like I said, you're starting small and you're building up, effectively building a small project, and use that as a model. That sequence of homeworks, if someone were to propose that as a project and it wasn't already a sequence of homeworks, would actually be a legitimate project. And it's not that complicated. So you can, if you're clever with your project, you can do a fairly straightforward one and meet all the project needs. Now, what most people do is they go the other route, and we'll talk about that a fair amount. Thank you, Master Beat. Okay, project, relatively sophisticated individual work. And so the four major requirements I have are this. We must use object inheritance, which we talk about in the course. We must have a graphical user interface. All interaction with the code has to come through the GUI. Using Java FX, period. No Java Swing, no AWT, none of that stuff. Must have exception handling in at least one place to catch errors, to show me you know how to do that. Must have file input output in at least one place to show me that you know how to do that. And those can be fairly trivial, quite frankly. Those are pretty easy project goals to meet. If you meet all four of those, you get 0 points. If you're missing one of them, it's 50 points each. So the idea here is you have to meet the minimal requirements of the work. And then from there, you'll see how the project is graded as I start to post that stuff. I need to do some minor modification to the project assignments from the previous semester, and that's one reason they're not up right now. You choose the topic. Now, I get to approve the topic, but you choose the topic. And the reason is, I think if I were to give you a topic, okay, thou shalt do a project on this topic, you would really be bored out of your head and feel miserable. I want you to be excited about your project. I want you to work on your project all the time in your spare time because you're so excited to do your project, which means you get to pick the topic. I have lists of ideas. I've also been talking to Dr. Dougherty in Human Factors, and he gave me a great list of ideas that they could actually use in Human Factors. And so if you pick one of those and you actually sign up with a faculty member over there and they approve your work, then that's an opportunity for some small extra credit also in the course. 7 deliverables. The first is the The first is the, actually 8 deliverables, I guess, but there's 7 deliverable timeframes spread throughout the course. The first is just the proposal. It's fairly simple. It's a 1-pager. And then from there, give me an idea of your problem statement, which is a fleshed out version of the proposal. Then give me an idea of your design and test. Those are the first 3 things that you turn in. And then the last 4 are give me a software drop, a software drop, a software drop, a software drop. Right? So you're breaking this up into basically into 3 sections. The first software drop is empty software. The reason is one of the themes of this course is please, please, please design before you code. Don't start winging it because you'll code yourself into a nightmare and then I have to get you out, right? So design, 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 and then code. Good coding practices is part of the lesson of the course. So you're practicing software design, software development, documentation, and coding techniques all at the same time. Again, the homeworks, the hound and hare sequence of homeworks kind of follows that, right? We kind of give you a notional design and then you're building software piece by piece. One of the things that I think is missing or difficult to get into an academic environment, because usually your software assignments are fairly small and they're throwaways, right? So you do an assignment, okay, I did that, never see it again. And I did that and I never see it again. That's not how the real world works. In the real world, you are often working on someone else's software, right? They built it a year ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and your job is to do some modifications to it. Well, how do you do that if you've never done that before? If everything you built previously was from scratch, fairly small, and you threw it away when you were done, how do you learn how to do long, sophisticated, complicated projects, right? So you do that through practice, just like everything else. So the idea with both the homework sequence and the project is learning how to build up the piece parts into a more sophisticated whole. Okay, I think I've covered everything. I got 3 minutes left, and so I'm ready for questions. Go.
So you said earlier that there's some of the professors and stuff that have projects that we could use, or
Yes.
that we could work with them.
Yes.
Will that list be posted?
I will not make promises on that list, but it'll be posted before the end of next week.
Okay, cool.
And hopefully sooner, yeah. Go ahead, Jose.
I was wondering, how is it exactly that the labs are going to work? Are we going to be doing that like at the same time as one of the lectures, or is it?
Well, again, so oh, go ahead. Is that the end? You want to just?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because the courses are being offered online, we can't put you in a situation where we're requiring you to be at a lecture where that's intrinsic to your grade. Does that make sense? Because you have something else at that time. Or I think actually one of my times conflicts with the Wednesday time, the Wednesday lab time. Dean will set up something like this, right? An opportunity to work in lab and probably multiple opportunities throughout the week. And I think it's going to have to serve more as a tutorial session or an office hours kind of thing. It's not a thou shalt go to this lab. Now, what he is going to set up though is all the lab materials will be online. There will be a pre-lab. He will have some lab work that you need to, some of which you'll need to turn in as an artifact, and then some post-lab work. And again, I'm encouraging him, all of that stuff gets done has to be turned in by Friday.
All right, thank you.
But some times during the week that you can actually get help, right? As if you were in the lab, which is that's most of what happens in the lab. They spend a short period of time, well, you've been to labs, you know how it works, short period of time introducing the topic, and then the rest of the time is people doing work with the TAs serving as tutors during that time. Okay, we got about a minute. Now I'm going to cut this off at 50 minutes as if we were in a classroom. If you have other questions or you think of some later, by all means, send me a Canvas message. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for being here. Attendance was great. Appreciate it. I will stop sharing, end the meeting, and let's see if this thing actually did record. If it does, you'll see it later on today on the Canvas site.
Thank you. Have a nice day.